It's a very good morning, everyone. For everyone who is watching the live streaming right now, please get yourself prepared by doing these 5 following things. Okay, I would love to welcome all of you to From Gen Z to BCO 2022. Before we get into all the details, once again, prepare yourself by doing these 5 following things. First, please check your internet connections. Make sure that you use Wi-Fi or wide LAN are working well for the best experience of watching. Next, check the image, audio, and quality. Make sure that your devices, namely a computer, a laptop, a tablet, a mobile phone, headphones are fully charged. Next, place your camera horizontally. Then, set your display name on Zoom to your full name. Last, don't forget to change your Zoom background to be our Gen Z picture. We have sent it to your chat box with how to do process, so you can check out your chat box right now. Ladies and gentlemen, with my greatest honor, let me welcome all of you to From Gen Z to BCO 2022, held by the New Economy Academy under the Department of International Trade Promotion or DITP, Ministry of Commerce. My name is Teresa, will be your host for today and very happy to be here to stay with you from the start until the end of today. Then we have students from Global Trade Policies and Regulations, Internationalization Strategy, and International Logistics and Supply Chain Management classes. I am sure that today you will gain a lot of knowledge for your classes. From Gen Z to be CEO 2022 aims to equip young generations along with juristic persons and individuals with knowledge on international trade to prepare them to be successful entrepreneurs so that they can play a major role in driving Thai exports in the future. First, let me inform you about all the benefits when you are joining in this program. With determination and perseverance, you will definitely be qualified. Every participant who has completed the 7 courses will have a chance to do the NEA test. Your test results will be used as a ticket to join the ITP's further development programs in cooperation with the ITP's alliances, and you will get the exclusive opportunities to be considered as a trainee with leading companies. You will do the online test together on the 22nd of May 2022 at 1 p.m. sharp through Visimo. There will be 2 tests altogether. For the first test, consists of 70 items. You will have 60 minutes to complete the test. If you pass the test with over 50% score, you will receive e-certificate from the program. Then you will be allowed to do the second test if your score is over 80%. Wow. The second test consists of 30 items and you will have another 45 minutes to do so. If you have reached this step, that means you are being considered to be the country's top 100 or top 500. So exciting, right? Let me present to you with some more exciting information. I am going to introduce more benefits that you will receive from this program. First, the country's top 500 will be shortlisted to join the exclusive training program hosted by TrueLab. The country's top 100 will be considered to join the internship program with the leading companies which sponsor this program, including Huawei, Bitkub, Exim Bank, Shopee, P&G, and Office of Commercial Affairs, which is an overseas office under the Ministry of Commerce. In addition, you will also be considered to join other trade promotion campaigns organized by the ITP or the ITP business alliances. The bottom line is those who have the highest score will be considered to be our ambassador of Gen Z program. Then we'll pass the inspiration forward to the young generations and help promote the next year program. They will be awarded with a lot of prestigious prizes from the ITP's alliances, as shown as on the screen right now. We also have the benefits for individuals and juristic persons participating in the training. Individual and juristic persons who have completed the training will receive and e-certificate from Gen Z to be CEO 2022. You will be entitled to study online courses from NEA's E-Academy and receive privileges to join trade exhibitions hosted by the ITP as well. Moreover, you will have more credits to participate in SME's proactive program, receive SME's proactive fund also, and join further development programs hosted by the ITP to enhance the international trade potential of exports in depth. The first session is about to start, so ladies and gentlemen, for those who haven't downloaded the handouts yet, our administrator just posted the link to download the handout in your chat box. So please check it and download it right now if you didn't do so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our first course today in the morning session is called an inspirational talk and experience sharing from the successful CEO. And our second course in the afternoon session is about the analysis of international trade situation. But you know, we have 7 courses, right? And you need to finish it in order to get the taste from NEA. But the first session, we would love to lift up your power a little bit about, you know, to get some more excitement, inspiration for being the next CEO. So for the first session, we're going to have very well-known, famous CEO in Thailand talking about all the details of doing the business there, right? For the grand opening right now, for the official grand opening, without further ado, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Director General Department of International Trade Promotion to preside over the opening ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Mr. Pusit Rattanakul Seri Rungrit ค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ It is my great pleasure and honor to preside over the opening ceremony from Gen Z to be CEO 2022 held by the New Economy Academy under the Department of International Trade Promotion or the ITP, Ministry of Commerce. The program is organized according to the policy of His Excellency during Laksana visit, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Commerce. It's aimed to increase the number of young entrepreneurs who will play a pivotal role in driving Thai export in the future. In 2021, the program has been a tremendous success as there were over 20,000 young entrepreneurs participated in the program. Today marks an auspicious beginning of from Gen Z to be CEO 2022 with the 8th training in which well-organized guest speakers share their insightful expertise and success stories. The program consists of 7 courses covering useful content, including inspiration talk from successful exporters, step to exporting, international marketing analysis, e-commerce platform, and logistic, intellectual properties, startup business mindset with soft power. The comprehensive knowledge on exporting that you will gain from this course will inspire you and ultimately prepare you to be a successful entrepreneur. In addition, this year, the ITP joined hands with leading companies such as True, Huawei, Exim Bank, Bitkub, and Shopee as business alliance, supporting everyone to become a successful CEO in the future. On behalf of the Department of International Trade Promotion, Ministry of Commerce, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to all the experts, guest speakers, and participants from Gen Z to be CEO. I hope that this program would be a great opportunity to gain knowledge, develop yourself, and become a confident entrepreneur and Gen Z CEO who play a vital role in driving Thai economy further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pusit, for your memorable opening speech. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into our topic today, very useful topic, and then Kun Top go I just said the name. All right, let me keep the secret for the moment. All right, while we are having the first session, let me check a little bit if you are now ready or not. Okay. For the first session, actually, we have some rules for you in case you would love to ask some questions. First, when you need to ask the question, need to be at the end of the session, you have to first open the camera, all right? And then you need to press raise hand button on your Zoom application in order that we're going to cue your question by that action of pressing the raise hand button. Okay, so I would love to check a little bit if your application is working or not. Can you just press some emoji or raise hand button right now? 3, 2, 1. All right. All right. I hope we get everyone there. Right. This is a raise hand. All right. How about some emoji? Are you happy today? Can you press some emoji for me? Well, 1, 2, 3. Wow, I have a lot of hearts. Thank you so much. And excitement face. Okay, so you know right now how to press the button, right? Okay, then after you press raise hand button, then you can send the text of your questions into our chat box in order to confirm your questions, right? After that, we will pick up the most inspiring questions to answer for the whole classes, and our lecturer going to be the one who pick up that question. Then at the time when your name are called, maybe by our lecturer or by our administrators, don't forget to open your microphone because you need to ask our speaker personally, right? And after that, when we have 30 minutes left, we will pick up some questions for this limited time. So it might be just 4 or 5 questions left for the 30 minutes time left, right? Okay, some of you might curious about the benefits because this is a lot, right? So let me inform you once again about the benefit. Would be nice, right? Okay, about the benefits. Every participant who has completed the 7 courses will have a chance to do NEA test. Remember, we have 4 days, right? This Saturday, tomorrow, and the next Saturday and Sunday, 4 days together with 7 courses. So you have a chance to do NEA test. Your test results will be used as a ticket to join the DITP's further development programs in cooperation with DITP alliances. And you will get the exclusive opportunities to be considered as a trainee with a leading company. Wow. You will do the online test together on the 22nd of May, 2022 at 1 p.m. sharp through Vizimo. There will be 2 tests altogether. For the first test consists of 70 items and you will have 60 minutes to complete the test. If you pass the test with over 50% score, you will receive an e-certificate from the program. So you have to pass 50%, okay? Then you will be allowed to do the second test if your score is over 80% score. The second test consists of 30 items and you will have only 45 minutes to complete it. So I hope everyone got into the second test together. If you have reached this step, that means you are being considered to be the country's top 100 or top 500. Would be very exciting. Let me present to you with some more excitement information. The first country's top 500 will be shortlisted to join the exclusive training program hosted by TrueLab. This is a very well-known company. Then the country's top 100 will be considered to join the internship program with leading companies, which sponsors this program, including Huawei, Bitkub, Exim Bank, Shopee, P&G, and Office of Commercial Affairs, which is an overseas office under the Ministry of Commerce. In addition, you will also be considered to join other trade promotion campaigns organized by DITP or the ITP business alliances. The bottom line is those who have the highest score will be considered to be Gen Z ambassadors. They will pass the inspiration forward to the young generations and help promote the next year's program. And they will be awarded with a lot of prestigious prizes from the ITP alliances as shown on the screen right now. We also have benefits for individuals juristic person participating in the training as well. Individual and juristic persons who have completed the training will receive an e-certificate from Gen Z to be CEO 2022. You will be entitled to study online courses from NEA's e-Academy and receive privileges to join trade exhibitions hosted by the ITP. Moreover, you will have more credits to participate in SME's Proactive program. Receive SME's Proactive Fund and join further development programs hosted by the ITP to enhance the international trade potential of exporters in depth. The first session, as I tell you, is all about the inspiration of the well-known CEO in Thailand. And today, to lift up your inspiration and some power a little bit, I have one question for you to participate as well, to get some comment from you. Okay, how about if we ask the best CEO, what are the requirements of the best CEO that they should have? Can you share with us? Like, okay, for me, the best CEO might have a lot of power, a lot of the power to manage the time. That is the example. How about you? Can you share with me? You can send the text to our chat box, or you can press the raise hand button as well to share with us. So our administrator will share your screen to all of us here, and you can speak personally to me. I have passion and vision, creativity. Can we have one brave people today to share with me on the screen? I know you come from the international courses, right? And everyone loves to raise your hand. Okay, can I have one of you raise your hand? I'm counting down from 3 to 1, okay? 3, 2, 1. Can you raise your hand, some of you? Really? Okay, now we have Kun, I'll let you introduce yourself then.
Hi, I'm Shashwat.
One moment,
Shash
please.
for
Don't
short.
forget to open your microphone before. Thank you. And introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Shashwat. I'm Shash. I believe a good CEO should have a vision for the future. Like, they should have a clear vision for how the future is going to look and execute and manage people to work towards that vision.
Very nice of you. Where you come from?
I'm from India, but I've lived in Thailand most of my life.
Which one is your university?
Mahidol University.
Mahidol University. Very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. This is one of the best brave people for today from Gen Z to BCU 2022. How about another one? Do we have anyone who would love to share with me before we get into the first session of our topic today? Raise your hand. Kun Justin. One moment, please. Don't forget to open your microphone, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I think the successful CEO should be the person who trusts in their people, who see the potential that their people can achieve big things.
So the CEO needs to have the very sharp eye to scan the potential in all the worker to put the right man to the right job, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. This is our second brave people. Can I have just 5 people from this topic? The next one, please. Let's share together, a lot of experience together will lift up some power for today activities. Okay? Would you like to raise your hand, some of you? Thank you very much. Okay, very nice hat. Can you open the camera, please? And don't forget to open your microphone as well.
So I think the CEO should have a good persuasive skill, like a skill to talk others to believe in with them.
about that? Anything else?
And then I think they should have like a leadership skill for that, make people believe in them.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, for the next person, please. Okay, we have someone raise the other hand. Okay, so this one will be the last one to share your thought about what are the criteria of a good CEO should have. Okay, we have Ms. Piriya. Can you open the camera, please? And don't forget to open your microphone.
Yes, ครับผม
ค่ะ
Yes, now I think they'd have to have charisma also. Obviously, you would be leading a lot of people, and you would have to like gain a balance of how to deal with them, how much work to put on them, how much stress they would have to undertake. Yeah, like keep in mind if they're like mental stability and also yours as well. I think.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And this is some question that we shared together. Very nice one. Thank you, everyone. Okay, remind you once again, we have the time for you, open the stage for a Q&A around 1 hour after our lecturer has done his session. Then if you would love to ask the question, press the raise hand button. We will queue a chance to ask the question by the time you press the button. Then send the question of your the question text into our chat box. And then we will pick up the most inspiring question to answer for the whole classes. Actually, you can, during the time that our lecturer are talking about his very useful presentation, you can start raise hand and text some question into the box. So our administrator know that you are the number 1, 2, 3 from that. Okay, and at the time when your name are called, maybe by our lecturers or our administrator, then don't forget to open your microphone. You know how to do it by our test question. Then when we have 30 minutes left, we will pick up some questions for this limited time. It would be just around 3 or 2 questions about that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for not losing any time anymore, as I say that today we have a very well-known speaker in this decade, I would say that his company advertisement along the expressway, highway, on the internet everywhere, I would say that. He is the leader of blockchain and digital asset technology in Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the founder and group CEO of Bitkub Capital Group Holding Company Limited, Mr. Jirayut Sapsi Sopa.
Swadikap. Hello everyone, my name is Top. Pleased to meet you all here today. Today we have about an hour to talk about the future, where the world is evolving, what are the biggest major trends, what should we do in the next 5 years, 10 years. I think this is going to be one of the most useful sessions for everyone. So let's start. Let me give you a quick background about myself. I've been in the blockchain digital currency space for 8 years now. I was one of the very first person in Thailand to advocate about Bitcoin and digital currency. During those 8 years, I founded 2 fintech companies. The first one was called coins.co.th, a very first Bitcoin wallets for Thailand, and now Bitkub is my second company, and we're one of the fastest growing startup, fintech startup in the last 4 years. I was reading economics at school, so I cannot code. I'm not a computer scientist, but I have a technical co-founders for those two companies in the past. So Kun Golf is our investor, our seed round investor for the very beginning, and I have been borrowing some of his slides for today's talk. You know, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, the world will not be the same as today. We're moving at a very fast pace. The way we connect, human connection, would be very different from today. The way we work is going to be very different from the way we work today, the way we study, the way we communicate. A lot of things are going to happen, in a fast-paced manner. For example, I think in the next 5 years, nobody would be connecting via, text, which is the first basic, layer of human connection. When we first have the internet in the first, say, 30 years ago, the first generation of the internet, right? Then, the computing power is doubling every 2 years. Now we are able to connect via photos, right? And then via videos, right? Continuous motion instead of a snapshot. Right? And now what we're doing here is a live stream, right? But there are new technologies like AR, VR technology, Holo 2 for Microsoft, or what we call the mixed reality, where in the future we can have our own avatars and we are able to hologram to connect with each other, right? The next, I would say, in less than 5 years. And this is going to impact the way we work, right? The way we communicate, the way we connect globally as a human, right? And this is not something far-fetched. This is everything is gonna happen within the next decades, right? So I would like to introduce one word. By the time you all graduate, right, the world is going to be a different world from today, for sure. The word I would like to introduce to you all is exponential, right? Introduction to exponential. The world is moving in an exponential manner, right? Meaning that for every step going forward, right, we are doubling or quadruple the speed or the developments of technology and progress and productivity, right? Which is a very, very different thinking from a linear development, where a linear development is when we are growing at a constant rate every year, right? In the next 10 years, the development would be roughly the same as the last 10 years, but that's not how the world works, right? The world is moving in an exponential manner, meaning that in the next 10 years, the progress, right, the productivity, the developments would outweigh the last 50 years of how the world has progressed in the last 50 years. I guess the best analogy to explain how fast we're moving is to use a man walking as an analogy. Imagine if you have the first guy, right? His name is an old economy, an old world. He thinks he can, develop every year, every day. He can take 30 steps forward, but for every step that he takes a same step, a linear step, right? Every steps are the same. The furthest he could go is 30 meters, right? Whereas if you have another person, right, his name is a new economy, right? Digital economy, a new world. He can also take 30 steps, but for every step that he takes, it is an exponential step, right? The second person can go around the world for 26 times, or a million, right, meters, right, versus 30 meters. And the reason why I give you this analogy is because the world is moving in an exponential manner, right? not in the first Gaia analogy, linear steps. And that is why we started to talk about disruptions more and more each year. 50 years ago, everywhere we go, people only say the word innovation, right? But now we are starting to hear the word disruption, disruption, disruption more and more. And these two words are very different. Okay? Innovation is pretty much, moving forward in a linear manner, taking linear steps, improving on existing infrastructures, right? Every day. We call it incremental improvements. But disruption is not, right? Disruption is when we, take a step back and look at the problem statement and try to create new things, right? Trying to create new things that make the old things obsolete. Once we are able to invent new things, it can replace the old infrastructures or technology, and it can work at least an order of magnitude better than the old technology. I guess the best analogy of a disruption is the electric light, right? The arrival of the electric light does not come from a continuous improvement of candles, right? If we are to innovate on candles every day, we are not going to have electric lights. We have to change the way we think, right? Change the assumption to create new things. And once we are able to invent the electric light, it is way, way more powerful than candles. And this leads to another point, right? Once we are able to invent electric lights, it frees up a lot of human labor time. Back then, when we were using candles, we had to use at least 60 hours of human labor time, right, to create, to get access to light. Once we are able to, invent new technology, electricity, the average human labor time went down from, 60 hours to 1 second. That means we have an additional 5 hours and 59 seconds, right? We call this, a holiday free from survival time. And with this holiday free from survival time, humans are able to use this time to invent even more technology and new things. That is why we're moving in an exponential manner. I guess this is the best graph to explain how the world works, right? The world is moving on the red line, right? Whereas most of the companies, most of all of the human capital are developing on the green line, linear manner. We are still thinking in a linear manner. We are still working in a linear manner, whereas the environment around us, the world, is moving in an exponential rate. And the reason why we have been talking about innovation, only the word innovation in the last 50 years, I guess the best way is to look at the graph, the initial, origins of the graphs. If you notice, both the red and the green lines at the start, both of them are linear, right? That's when we, are able to move by developing on the existing infrastructures, incremental improvement, even the red line. But once the world moves, to a certain inflection point, we call it the inflection point, the dotted line, the internet century. Right now, we're living in a different world, the internet century, not the industrial revolution era. Right? That's when the world is moving upwards. We are able to, with digital technology, we are able to decrease what we call the marginal cost of production every year. Right? We can, do more with less with technology. Right? This is the keyword: do more with less. We cannot do more with less in a traditional sector. Imagine if we are running a traditional bricks and mortar business. If you want to have an extra 10 output, we have to inject 10 more additional inputs in a one-to-one ratio manner. The marginal cost of production is increasing along with the output. But with softwares, with digital technology, right, the world is moving upwards. If we want to have an additional output, right, we don't really need to, inject or invest in additional inputs, right? Marginal cost of production is decreasing every year. We can do more with less. For example, look at the way we, come to lectures today, right? Imagine if the world without COVID, and you're meeting with me in a classroom, right? And imagine if we have, say, 250 students today, right, in a physical classroom. What if I want to talk, in front of 1,000 students, right? I want to increase an additional 750, outputs. Then obviously we have to find more chairs, expand the room, rent more space, right? Marginal cost of production is increasing, and we can't really scale the output if we're not increasing the inputs. But with digital technology, with the invention of TCP/IP protocols, we are able to create Skype, Zoom, right? Google Meet, Microsoft Teams. Now we're meeting in an open education platform. Right now, we have 250 people in the room, but if I want to talk in front of 2,000 people, the cost doesn't really increase, right? Marginal cost of production is 0. That means we can do more with less. We have more productivity each year. We have to invest in, inject less input every year. Okay. And with that, once we have more productivity, we are able to use the, holiday free from survival time, 5 hours and 59 minutes to invent even newer things for the world. We're living in this world where there's an abundance of time now, right? Back then, 100 years ago, our ancestors, the only thing that they think about is survival. How do I have enough food? How do I have enough light? Like, how do I have enough communication, access to communication? Everything was scarce, right? Scarcity everywhere. And humans we are very good at inventing new things to make, scarcity, abundance, right? We are very good at creating, abundance of many things. For example, 100 years fast forward, communication is no longer scarce. Everyone get free access to communication, right? Back, even 15 years ago, when we want to do an international phone call, it used to cost 30 baht, 60 baht, right, to get a call overseas. Right now, we get to see, faces without costing a single penny, right? So communication is no longer scarce. Access to light, 100 years ago, it took 60 hours on average of human labor to create enough access for light. Once we're able to invent electricity, then we have abundance of of lights now. And people were saying that we are running out of food, scarcity for food. If we are to fly to Singapore right now, there's this company called Beyond Meat, Beyond Burger, where we can, get a stem cell from a cow, right? Put it into the bioreactor. We can grow meat now. You're hearing this correctly. We can grow meat, similar to how we grow vegetables. And this is not a thing of the future. It is here today. You can fly to Singapore and taste that Beyond Meat burger, right? So we can even grow meat. So we don't have any, scarcity issues, right? People were saying that we are running out of water. Do you know that right now we have a technology to extract water from the air? So we're living in a much better and better world. The absolute poverty is decreasing every year. Standard of living is increasing every year. The average person today has a better standard of living than Rockefeller, right? 100, 200 years ago, the richest person. Right? we have access to back then, even access to chocolate or ice used to be considered as a luxury. Now it's a common man accessible products, right? Or even if you look at the average lifespan of a human, 100 years ago in 1920, right, 100 years ago, Spanish flu, end of World War I. The average lifespan of a human was 30 years of age. Right now, the average human age is around 70, 80, already doubled what we had 100 years ago. And by the year 2025, longevity will exceed the longevity would exceed the velocity. What does that mean? It means the technology would increase, a human life, at this equilibrium point where we are able to keep up, by extending human life to at least, I would say, 100 years old. We're now having technology to bioengineering our cells, enhance our cells. We have Biobank, the biggest bank in the UK with 500,000 patients to collect all the health data, blood samples across 50 years, panel data, and able to use this data to, invent more accurate medicines, right? Able to give advice, more accurate than doctors. And so, in this graph here, going back to the slides, where are we today? Right? If we were to map this graph back to the previous analogy of the two men taking 30 steps forward, we have already taken 25 steps. Right? This is where we are today. And in the next decade, in the next 10 years, that is the additional 5 steps. But in the previous 25 steps, it only accounts for 3.1% of all the world's developments. In the next 10 years, the next 5 steps, that's why we will witness the other 96.9% of all the progress that is going to happen. That means the area right above the green line, right, the red triangle, that's where the opportunity lies, right? Those who are able to unlearn the old assumption and relearn the new assumptions can reap the biggest benefits of the century in the next 10 years, more than the last 50 years combined. But the red triangle also poses as a threat to those who still relies on the old thinking, old assumptions, right? Has any one of you guys checked on the world's richest list recently? What I found interesting is that 8 out of 10 richest people in the world now come from tech, come from technology, right? Without checking, you would see old names, right? Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, right? But by checking at the latest list, it's a clear trend that the world is moving, driven by technology, right? And, the first richest guy and the second richest guy used to be at least maybe the maximum $1 billion, right, dollar difference, but now we're at almost $100 billion difference between the first and the second richest person in the world, right? The world is moving in an exponential rate, driven by technology. And it comes to a second point. If the first and the second richest person has $100 billion differences between them, it reinforces this point that we are also living in a world where realistic poverty, right? Realistic poverty is getting worse and worse. absolute poverty is getting better and better, right? We're having longer lifespan as a human, right? We're having more holiday free from survival time to invent new technology, abundance of time, abundance of capital now, right? Abundance of computational power, right? This is the world where we're living in. Absolute poverty is getting better and better, but the relative poverty is getting worse and worse. And those that are able to understand technology would be able to reap the benefit. That's the second point. And I'm sure most of some of us may question that if the world is really moving on the red line, not the green line, how do you know that in the next 10 years all the world's developments and progress would outweigh the last 50 years combined? So I have a few data to share with you all today. The first data point, wind power cost, right, in the last 50 years. Right, the cost, wind power cost has gone down by 15 times in the last 50 years, 40 years. Not 15%, 15 times. Second data point, right, in the last 50 years, solar power cost has gone down by 250 times, not 250%. Right? Battery price has dropped. Tesla surprised everyone with the development, battery price protection. All the data points concludes that the world is moving in an exponential manner. Even the chips, right, computer chips on the mobile phone, the phone that we're using today has more computing power than what NASA used to use to send a man to the moon, 1969 Apollo mission. Right? They have less computing power than what is in our pocket today. Right? Computer chip is getting cheaper and cheaper, but more and more powerful. Right? 2009, one chip is costing $20,000. 2014, 5 years fast forward, down to $79. Right? 250 times cheaper in 5 years. And this would unlock new technology. Right? We will no longer have smart phones, only smartphones, smart laptops, smart watches. In the near future, everything would be smart. Right? Smart glasses, AR, VR technology, HoloLens 2, Oculus, right? Smart doors, smart tables. We call it this thing we call this the IoT, Internet of Things. And what is interesting about this graph is that all the inventions also has a positive correlation with how the world is moving. Most of the inventions come about only in recent times, right? And that means in the next 10 years, we will see many, I would say, unimaginable technology or things that are beyond our imagination. So we have to think big in the next decade, right? Imagine if we were to go back to 100 years from today, right? 100 years ago in 1920, if we were to tell the soldiers coming back from the World War II, World War I, that they are able to see their parents' face, right, across the world in a small device without costing a single penny, they would call us crazy, right? That's something already beyond their imagination. But this is what we are using as a de facto apps every day, right? As a usual human connection, right, communication. So in the next 10 years, I would say that we will all be surprised by new inventions that are beyond our imagination. And there will be more inventions happening in the next 10 years than the last 50 years combined. I would say we are underestimating how fast the world is moving right now. Right? Everyone would be surprised by the progress, right? Progress in the next decade. And it takes less and less time to build a billion-dollar company because the world is moving in an exponential manner, right? But the old economy also has a shorter and shorter lifespan. In the previous era, the Industrial Revolution era, the average lifespan of the S&P 500 companies, S&P 500 companies used to be 75 years on average. During the internet century, this century, the average lifespan of the S&P 500 companies is down to 7 years, because the world is moving, very fast. And we have also seen that, we can create billion-dollar company quicker and quicker, right? Now we have, new unicorns happening every day, and unicorn used to be rare, right? But now unicorn is almost a common commodity now in the US. Capital is a common commodity also in the US. We have abundance of capital, abundance of time. We have more and more unicorn created every day. Now they are looking at the trillion-dollar company now, not a billion-dollar company, right? It takes less and less time. Used to take Microsoft 40-something years, Apple, right, to create a huge company. Amazon took them half the time, 20 years. Facebook, 10 years, right, to get to the same place as those biggest companies around the world. Airbnb, Uber 6 years, Airbnb 3 years. Right? It takes less and less time to create a billion-dollar company. And there's a reason why. Right? And the reason is because our new generation, we can tap on the existing infrastructures of the previous generations that have already built for us. Back then, in the Microsoft, Apple era, they had nothing. There's no existing internet infrastructures for them. They had to be the first builder of infrastructures, right? Operating system. And if you see Jeff Bezos' time, Amazon, right? At least we have computers, right? To be able to access the website. Right? That's the first infrastructure that Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, co-invented for the world. But still, there's no cloud computing. Jeff Bezos had to invest in private servers. Right? Inputs equals output. How could he scale the company? Right? Also, the internet was really bad. AT&T did not invest in, land. 4G technology was not a thing back then. Not every household get access to the internet. I don't know if you guys remember the days where we used to use a modem, right? Really old, landline to connect to the internet. So it took them a long time, right? 20 years of progress. And if you look at Mark Zuckerberg's time, Facebook, his previous ancestors already invested in everything, right? Internet, he has a faster broadband internet now instead of a home line modem internet, right? There are laptops available in his time, right? Steve Jobs also put a supercomputer, right? A mobile phone, right? Smartphone in everyone's pockets. Facebook doesn't need to, opening branches around the world to get access to customers, right? Because Steve Jobs already, invest all the infrastructures for him. That is why it took Facebook half the time, right? 10 years. The arrival of Uber or Airbnb took them even less time. Right? There's cloud computing available. They don't have to invest in private servers themselves. Smartphones, not only iPhones are in the market, is in the market. We have Samsung, Huawei, Xiaomi, cutting down prices, getting smartphones more available for everyone. We have social media that puts everyone in one place. Uber, Airbnb can just advertise and everyone will see them. How can they not succeed, right, at a much faster rate? Because of all the existing infrastructures available, right, to them. And it's the same in the next 10 years. We're going to have, unicorn would be a common commodity in the next decade. People would have more time now. People have access to capital, right? People have access to computing power that is doubling every 2 years. we can do amazing things with new technology. So we have abundance of opportunities in the next decade. Here's the data point. Market cap to $1 billion, right? We call it the unicorn club. We have more and more unicorns as we move forward, right? Because the infrastructures are more ready. And if you look at the S&P 500 companies list, we see a lot of new brands, new companies emerging in the last decade, in the last 20 years. S&P 500 companies, traditional companies, are dying at a much faster rate as well. Right? It is clear that money moves to new pockets. Right? So we have to be able to capture the trend, understand and see the next transformational shift of the world. Look at Blockbuster, for example. This is a classic case study, right? Case study Blockbuster and Lan Meng Pong, right, in Thailand. They used to be a monopoly, almost a monopoly in the video rental space, right? And in the year 2000, I think I don't remember the date, but based on the interview of the Netflix CEO, he said he booked a domestic flight to talk to the CEO of a Blockbuster, and he wanted to sell Netflix to Blockbuster for $50 million USD. And Blockbuster despised him. Right? He laughed at Blockbuster CEOs laughed at the Netflix CEO. That didn't go very well. And Netflix was saying that, Blockbuster, you're not building a scalable company. You have to keep opening up branches. You have to buy more videos to stock up the videos. You have to hire people to look after the shop. It will take, I don't know how many generations to get access to 7 billion people on the planet. The cost would go up in tandem with the outputs. And here we go. I'm building a more scalable Blockbuster solution, Netflix, where everyone can watch the videos at the same time. Marginal cost of production is not increasing in tandem with the outputs. I want to sell it to you for $50 million. And he was, despised by the CEO of Blockbuster. 20 years fast forward, Netflix is at least 10 times bigger than Blockbuster was. Right? This is a classic case study about how the old companies are not able to adapt or unlearn the old assumptions. Right? They have a lot of legacy thinking, legacy system. Here's another classic example. I don't know if you guys are able to witness this company, Kodak, right? Kodak used to be almost a monopoly in the camera space, film camera. And this guy, his name is Steven Sasson. In 1975, he invented the world's first digital camera in the photo here. He was very excited. He brought this camera to his boss, and he said, I have invented digital camera. And his boss, Steven's boss, said, Steven, you have been in the company for a long time. You know that customers will have to keep buying new cameras, right? If with us, with the film, right, we are able to sell more cameras. What are you thinking? You're creating a camera that doesn't force customers to buy a new one. They can take unlimited photos. Go and hide this ASAP, as soon as possible, and don't tell anyone about it. I think 3 years after, there's a random company came out of nowhere from Finland called Nokia and fully disrupted Kodak. These are the two classic cases. And the reason why Kodak is no longer here Is it because we're taking less photos today? We're taking way more photos today, right? How come the biggest monopoly camera company cannot survive if we're taking even more photos today? And the reason is not because there's no demand. The demand is always there. We're seeing more and more demand each year. But the reason Kodak is no longer here is that they are not able to adjust their supply equation, not the demand side. The demand is always here. The ability to adjust the supply equation. People want better, faster, cheaper things every year. And those companies that are able to adapt will survive and take more market share in the future. And since the world is moving in an exponential manner, we have newer and newer technology emerging. That is why everywhere around the world, there is this word here, startups, right? Emerging in the last 10 years, 20 years. You know what, the biggest companies like Google or Microsoft, they're not really scared of their competitors. What they are scared the most is the two kids in a garage working on new inventions that came out of nowhere and will fully disrupt them in the next 10 years. Because they have no legacy, they have no legacy thinking or legacy infrastructures or technology. They can just invent the newest thing and redefine the customer's behavior and the demand equation. And I guess this word here is has the most biggest misconception within our community. I don't think everyone understands what startup is. If we are to talk to everyone or ask around what a startup is, most people would say, oh, a startup is a small company that hasn't been around for very long, has very little capital, has only a few employees, and mostly broke and doesn't make any money. But that's not the case. This is the real definition of a startup. This word has the biggest misconception in our community. Startup is a company that has two things: repeatable and scalable business models. It doesn't relate to when the company was founded. It doesn't relate to if the company would make money or how many employees the company has. That's not how we define startup. Startup is defined by the business models. If the business model has two things, we can call this company as a startup: a repeatable and a scalable business models. Most of the SMEs, most of the traditional companies, they don't really have the second part, the scalable part. Marginal cost of production would increase if they want more output. They would need to invest or increase the input, but not startup. Google has, companies like Google, they have the biggest profit margin in the world. They can scale their services everywhere around the world without having to scale the capex or opex or the inputs. They're able to create a repeatable and scalable business model, whereas SMEs and traditional businesses can only create a repeatable business model, but not a scalable one. The cost would increase in tandem with the revenue. The profit margin is the same, if not decreasing every year, with more and more competitors entering the space, doing exactly the same thing. And this are the three key factors written by the ex-chairman of Google called Eric Schmidt. He was one of the leading CEOs in the last decades in the Silicon Valley. When Larry Page and Sergey Brin founded Google, they needed the adult supervision. So the VC forced them to find a new CEO. They invited Eric Schmidt to be their CEO of Google because he was a rising star back then. But what he discovered was when he joined Google, he said all of his confidence that he has been building up has, all disappeared once he joined Google. He felt like he was living in a different world. So, he took a step back. Back then, he used to have a lot of egos, right? Because he was a rising star. When he came to Google, he was humbled by this company. So he took a step back, look in the mirror, and started to ask himself one question. He asked himself this one question in front of the mirror. He said, what is different now? The world where he was born, the Industrial Revolution era, and the world where he is currently working in, the internet century era. What is different now? And he concluded with 3 factors. Right? And this is all in the book called How Google Works. You guys can, in your free time, read this great book, right? How Google Works, written by Eric Schmidt himself. You can even search for the slides online. The first factor, he said, all the world's information and media is online. Meaning that there's no asymmetric information anymore, right? During the internet century era. In the previous Industrial Revolution era, there's a huge asymmetric information happening. It is very hard to find information on how to start a company, how to, what is fully paid up capital means, what is partial paid up capital means, how to fundraise. There's a huge asymmetric information going on. But with the internet, people can just move their thumb and search for anything now, reducing the business secrets. Right? We are able to reduce business secrets. More and more people are able to create more companies now. Bad companies that rely on asymmetric information can no longer survive in the current environment. Or look at our situation, for example. If you were to look back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there's this yellow book called Yellow Pages. I don't think you guys know. Access to information is really bad. Even phone, right? Telephone numbers. We used to have this huge yellow book, Yellow Pages. Right? And what about the rest of the information? It's going to be really hard to find too, right? Or 20 years ago, when a customer wants to buy a chair, what would they do, right? They would be driving around on the street, seeing which shop sell, chairs, furniture, right? Or they would go to the department store and walk around and see if they can get a chair. But that's not the case today. If we want to get a chair, what would we do? The first thing that we would do is that we would either search Google, search for the Facebook fan page, right, or Line to ask questions of our friends. This is the first layer of contact points of the customers now. Digital layer. Are we putting our companies or ourselves in the digital layer? Right. Otherwise, our competitors would not, allow our customers to go through the digital layer, to the physical branches. And if you look at the second factors, mobile devices mean anyone can reach anyone, anytime, anywhere. Right? Steve Jobs puts a supercomputer on everyone's pocket, right? Smartphone. It changes the way we do businesses. A physical branch is no longer a thing. It's a thing of the past now, right? It took McDonald's how many years to scale across the world in many countries. And Facebook doesn't really need to have a branch in Thailand, right, to onboard a customer, because Steve Jobs already put an iPhone on everyone's pocket. They can just get access to Line, to Facebook, without them having to have a physical space in any country. It changes the way we work, changes the way we communicate, changes the way we do businesses. And the behavior of customers are changing also. You know, the shortest distance that we're using lineman in Thailand is 6 meters now. Right? 6 meters is like literally right next to each other. And even 7-Eleven executives told me that they are now doing delivery services. People don't even want to walk outside to buy a water bottle anymore. They just want to move their thumb. So it changes a lot of assumptions on how we do businesses. Cloud computing puts a supercomputer in everyone's pocket, meaning that an 18-year-old can create a company easily now without having to have a lot of capital. We can use cloud computing with very little money to get things started, to test the product. As a result, barriers to entry that have stood for decades are melting away. As I told you guys earlier, right? Google, Microsoft, they are not scared of their competitors. They are scared of just two kids working on a new idea in a garage with the latest technology, right, that are able to make them obsolete. That is what they are scared of the most. Right? They want their employees to be able to constantly innovate, create new inventions, because they understood that there's no barriers to entry now with all the latest technology coming into the space. Look at Uber. It took them 6 years to disrupt one of the ancient industry, taxi businesses, within just 6 years. And this data shows us that, reinforces the thesis that it takes less and less capital to start a business. If we want to start a business in the year 2000, an IT business in the US, we must have at least $5 million USD to start a company. With the arrival of an open source technology, the cost is down to 500K, right? From 5 million, 10 times. With the arrival of cloud computing, down another 10 times to $50K, and 5 years, forward, 4 years forward, 3 years forward, going forward. So right now in the year 2022, right, it doesn't cost anything to start a company now, right? With all the abundance of capital also, right? We have crowdfunding, ICOs, VCs, angel investments. So we are in the most exciting period for starting a company. And what I would like to share here is the consequences, right, of starting slow. It's better to start first, because digital company is not the same as a physical company. Most likely only one will survive. There's this thing called winner takes all. If you look at Amazon, for example, Amazon is the biggest e-commerce platform in America. It is bigger than all of the other e-commerce platforms combined in America combined. Right? They are what we call a local monopoly. Alibaba is a local winner for China. Amazon had to flee the country, right? There can only be one clear winner. In Thailand, Lazada and Shopee are burning at least 3-4 billion baht per year. And there's a reason why, right? Because only one will survive, and we don't know which one yet. The one with the deepest pocket, right, I guess. But worse is Facebook. They are a global monopoly model, not a local monopoly model, right? I don't know if you guys remember, we used to have this high five, MySpace, right, Bebo, right, platforms. We also have 7 billion people on the planet. Why can't these platforms coexist? How come everyone is on Facebook now as a global monopoly platform? Because there are two things coming from a digital company. The first one is what we call the economy of scale. Second factor is the network effect that we will never experience with the traditional sector. Right. For example, what is a network effect? And imagine if I'm the only person in Thailand that still use Line, Hi-Fi or MySpace. Right? If I post something and nobody sees it, then there's no point, right? Or if I send a message and the message doesn't really bounce back, then I have to go back and use the same platform as everyone else's. Right? This is a network effect, and that is why it is a winner takes all, or the economy of scale. Amazon is able to deliver, goods and services at the cheapest, fastest, the highest quality amongst the peers because of the economy of scale. And since people are moving their thumb now, they will move their thumb to the best website, right? The best application that they can get cheaper, faster, better services. No wonder why there's only one platform in each industry. So it's better to start first. What I've been talking in the first hour, right? About how the world's moving in an exponential manner, how we need to quickly adjust. Time is very expensive now. All of these things, 93% of all the chief executives agree that their industry will never be the same again. But only 3% started to do something, started to change. The other 54% agrees, right, that the world is not going to be the same again. The industry is never going to be the same again. But also admit that they don't know what to do, right? And this is a pretty scary number, right? 54%. This is 40% John Chambers. Everyone is saying, things in the same direction. In the next 10 years, in the next decades, 40% of all the businesses will die if they don't know how to accommodate new technologies. So if you were to walk outside now, you can pick one out of 2 brands that we see on the street who will disappear in the next 10 years. This is a pretty scary number, right? MIT is saying the same thing. MIT Sloan. 90%. Most of the CEOs admit that the industry is not going to be the same, but very few, starting with the execution, started their execution program, digital strategy program. And this gives us more and more opportunity, because if the old companies are dying at a faster rate, then there will be new companies emerging at a faster rate too. Right? The money changes pockets. We just have to spot this transformational shift. And the reason why Jeff Bezos is able to grow his company for a long time and be the second richest person in the world now is very, very clear. I would recommend you guys to in your free time search on Google Jeff Bezos shareholders letter. He writes a letter once per year to his shareholders consecutively, in the last 20 years. Every year he would write one letter, shareholders letter. You will learn so much about the way he thinks. Very useful. and he has so many important quotes, and this is one of them, right? If your customer base is aging with you as in the company, right, then eventually you're going to become obsolete or irrelevant, right? Because what does that mean? Right? We have to stay young forever as a company. It means that the company must not live on the previous success. Right? They must constantly innovate new products, new services, because the new target groups, the values are changing. The customers' behaviors are changing every generation to generation. We must be able to capture a new type cohort of customers. The ability for the company to invent new things is critical for the company's survival, to stay young forever. If the company is no longer innovating, then eventually it will become obsolete with that same old group of customers they're serving, that they're getting older and older each year. Right? So this is a very powerful quote, right? That the company should stay young forever. We should not punish. We should not punish, failures. We should encourage failure, encourage experimentation, and then we will have progress. Right? We cannot have progress without experimentation. We cannot have experimentation without failures. Right? So failure is a good thing. And this is another powerful quote, a thinking from Jeff Bezos. I would urge you guys to go back and read the shareholders letter 20 years backwards. You will learn so much about the way he thinks. Working backwards is starting with customers when we want to invent new things, not a random assumption coming from a top-down CEOs. Right? Let me skip that. So these are the slides that reinforce what we have discussed in the last hour. Life expectancy is doubling, more than doubled 100 years ago. Solar power is 250 times cheaper in the last 50 years. And we started to see relative poverty getting worse and worse. Right? Even though absolute poverty is getting better and better, we see two clear trends: the exponential winner and the exponential loser. Right? Two sides, and these two groups are getting more and more diverged. Right? We call it digital divide. Digital divide is getting worse and worse as we move forward in the future. So we have to choose which side we want to be in the next 10 years. This slide is nothing, it's just to count, 10 seconds. And, within those 10 seconds, here's an interesting fact, right? Google already made 600,000 baht in that 10 seconds that we counted, right? Apple already made 1.7 million, right, baht in that 10 seconds. They are the exponential winners of the world. Whereas in the last 10 seconds that we counted, three people already died from starvation. On average, the average person earned 0.002 cents in that 10 seconds. These are the absolute exponential losers that are getting worse and worse. Right? 19 children were born into poverty in the last 10 seconds. This is the world where we're living in now. Those who understand technology would reap the biggest benefits. Right? These guys are making crazy money every 10 seconds that we counted. Whereas the rest of the world, 60 สตางค์, that's how much we make every 10 seconds. And with the exponential technologies like blockchain, AI, artificial intelligence, right? Big data, AR, VR technology or metaverse, internet from the sky, IoT, Internet of Things, 3D printing, cryptocurrency, digital assets, NFTs. These exponential technologies are going to make the digital divides worse, even worse in the next 10 years. Right? The relative property is getting worse and worse. Those who are able to get access to technology would increase the productivity massively. Whereas those that cannot adapt or accommodate new technology would not be able to get the benefits. And Thailand, we are the third most unequal country in the world, right? And not just intra-country statistics. In the next 10 years, countries that are able to understand that digital economy will be the biggest deciding factor of who's going to be the next winner and the loser, right, would reap the benefit going forward. Those that are able to embrace newest technology, fix up the existing legacy law to allow inventions, new technologies to happen. We can leapfrog at many other countries if we're able to understand this impact. If not, then we're going to be in the wrong side of history here. Even intra, country statistics or inter-country statistics. Have you guys heard of the Marshmallow Test? In economics, we have this Marshmallow Test where we put a marshmallow in front of a kid, and the kid that delay the gratification would most likely succeed in life more in life. Usually those that would the ones that grab marshmallow right away would not be as successful, right? That was the test. But what is interesting about this test? Once we factor in wealth, previous generations of wealth, this marshmallow test no longer works. You can grab marshmallow right away and you'll be very successful. So what does that mean? It means as a country, if we miss out on the next wave, the inequality would be even worse going forward, right? So this is very important, how we decide to move as a country. And these are all the exponential technologies that are going to happen in the next 10 years, right? Quantum computing, we are able to process things in qubits now, not bits, right? And there will be new capabilities that we haven't never imagined in the past that we could do happening in the next decade. And these are the new, we call it the new drivers of values or the transformational shift that we see in almost every industry. You have this virtual digital connected version of the products and services that we use. In every industry, people would prefer the sharing, fractional ownership of things now, right? Just-in-time delivery. The new definition of owning something in the future is the ability to use it, right? The arrival of Airbnb, Uber of something is happening worldwide. Ride sharing economy, and also the hyper customization of products and services. Okay. And this is an interesting point here. I know if you guys study economics, this is the most popular graphs, right? Supply demand curve intersecting the equilibrium price. But this graph is becoming obsolete, by the way. We even have to reinvent economics in the future, because this graph only works when the marginal cost of production doesn't go towards zero, right? Look at the communication space now. We can get on a call, see each other's faces for free without costing any single penny. The marginal cost of production for the communication sector is now down to zero. And this is going to happen in every industry. In the near future, everyone, if we want something, we will have it. That we won't live in a world of scarcity. We will live in a world of abundance of everything. We can produce output. We can do more with less. With the latest, exponential technology, we can do more with less. We don't have to invest, inputs, but we can get abundance of output in almost every industry now, meaning that all the demand will be fulfilled. We can produce anything under the supply curve now, right? That means there's a new concept called dynamic pricing, right? What does that mean? That means you can sell pretty much at any price above zero because the marginal cost of production is down to zero. And we don't have to work, 7 days per week, 5 days per week. Jack Ma was saying in the future, people would be working for 4 hours per week or 4 days per week. But the productivity is going to be even better, right? Look at the example of light, access to light. It used to cost us 60 hours of human labor to produce light, candles. The invention of electricity, right, took on average 1 second of human labor. We can free ourselves 5 hours and 59 minutes. That means the productivity is not dropping, but we have to invest less and less input now, which is a good thing. We have more output, less input, do more with less with digital technology. And it doesn't, especially software companies, they don't really have to, input any more materials, right? It's an infinite amount of resources that we can tap on with the digital technology. And it comes to another key point here, nano economics. If we can produce anything with dynamic pricing now, anything above zero, then this is a new unit economic that we will be used as a measurement, nano economics. We will have a new job, group of people called nano entrepreneurship, where people can work anywhere, anytime, in the world, and they can charge a nano contract, $5 per project, and they can work on 10 companies at the same time per day, right? And work anytime, anywhere. And if everything would be hyper customized and data driven, then we can measure everything in nano economics and charge in nano dynamic pricing. This is another good concept to explore for the future business models or the future trend. Right. And these are the transformational shifts that we see, right? Coming of the arrival of the digital currency, blockchain, and in the past 10 years, we see the arrival of the ride-sharing apps. We see the upcoming uprising of sharing economy, right? We see 4 clear trends in any industry that we are in. The decreasing trend of ownership, increasing trend of virtualization or digitization, right? Or increasing trend of decentralization, and marginal cost of production is going down in almost every sector. Right? That means we have oversupply, and we can charge anything above zero. Right? And this slide shows the 5 layer of business models of the future. We should not do a content or product services businesses because everyone could compete. Right? It's better to do a platform business, mega platform or ecosystem business or operating system. I think we're running out of time to dive deep into these 5 platforms, 5 layers of business models. But I urge you to listen to go watch one of my videos. I would be explaining this in details. But if you look at the data quickly, if you see, these are these S&P 500 companies over the past decade. Right? The exited index, right? CODA. Most of them are product, services, or content businesses, right? On the right-hand side. And if you look at the left-hand side, entered the index. Most of them, create new companies. Most of them are platform businesses, right? Or ecosystem business, or mega platform, or operating system like Google, Amazon, right? Facebook. These are all platform businesses and all operating system that are replacing older companies because they are able to increase their profit margin every year. They are almost a monopoly, right? Digital, local, global, local monopoly of the world. So these are the 5 layers that I urge everyone to study further, explore. Right. So it's like to skip the 5 business models, but it is very useful. You can watch my videos on YouTube. So we have around 2 minutes left. I would like to end on this note here. That what will be the most useful skills of the next decade, of the next century? Right? We're not talking about IQ here. We're not talking about AQ here too. We're not talking about EQ here too. Sorry. The most important skill of the next decade is AQ, adaptive quotient, the ability to unlearn and relearn things. In the previous century, right, the most useful skill is the ability to read and write, because most of the people are not able to read or write in the previous century. But now everyone can read and write. Those that will succeed are those that are able to unlearn the old assumption and relearn a new thing, which is very hard to do, by the way. As a human, we hate change. We dislike change. We don't like uncertainty. And it is very hard for us to, especially the unlearn part, not the relearn, the unlearn part. Here's an example. I don't know if you guys have seen this experiment, but this is a bike. But this is not a normal bike. When we turn the wheel to the left, the handles to the left, the wheel would go to the right. And if we turn the wheel to the right, right, the handle to the right, the wheel would go to the left. It goes in the opposite direction. And here is a challenge. And this guy on the stage is called, I think his name is Dustin Stanley. He invented this bike, and he challenged everyone who already knew how to ride a bike to try to ride this bike in a straight line. And those, here's in Sydney, those who can master this, he will pay $500 for it in a straight line, in only a few meters, right? And nobody could ride this bike. They can't unlearn how to ride the old, ways of riding a bike. And this is Dustin Stanley, right? It took him, every day, 45 minutes every day, for 10 months in a row to be able to ride this bike. He practiced 45 minutes every day. And look at him, he's still struggling to ride this bike. It's very hard for humans to unlearn what used to work for us, what used to get us there, right? That's really hard. And this is really funny. And Dustin, once he mastered how to ride a new bike, he goes back and ride the traditional bike. And this is him. This is a normal bike. He can't even go back and ride a normal bike like everyone else is now. After 10 months of practicing, he's struggling to ride a proper normal bike. I guess it would take him another 10 months of unlearning and relearning to ride the same bike as everyone else's, right? So change is hard, right? But that is what will get us there. We have to change the way we think. We have to change the way we used to believe things, change the assumptions. And Dustin, he has a son, right? His son is less than 5 years old. And it took his son 2 weeks to ride this new bike. of practicing. It took Dustin 10 months, his son, to less than 2 weeks. What does that mean? It means that we are in a luckier position, right, as a new generation. Once you guys graduate in the next few years, you're entering a new world. And you don't need to learn how to ride the old way of riding a bike. You can get on a new bike right away and learn new things like blockchain, quantum computing, AR, VR technology, or metaverse, and believing in the new assumptions without having to unlearn the old assumptions all the way that used to get us there in the past. Right? So this is a good thing, right? So I guess we are running way out of time now. But I would like to end on that note. AQ will be the most important skills of the next decade. I hope everyone enjoyed the talk. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back you guys to From Gen Z to BCO 2022. We are at the end of the first session of the topic and inspirational talk and experience sharing from the successful CEO. And we are staying with Kun Top once again. Thank you so much for joining us today with your very useful information to kickstart our new generation to have a very nice power to get to be the nice CEO in the future as well. Okay, now before we get into our first 4 questions, I would love to remind you once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would love to ask some questions, you have to first open your camera right now. And then after that, you need to press your raise hand button in order to ask the CEO. And it needs to be just, you need to let us ask the question to Kun Top 4 questions first, and then you are allowed to raise hand and ask your question. Would be the 5 question, the 6 question after that. Okay, all right. I think everyone opened the camera already. Let's check it out a little bit that your application Zoom is working well. Can you press the raise hand button right now, all of you? All right. Okay. I think everybody is ready. Kun Top ka, we have the first questions come from Kun Maliwan Alice Bunjua Galler. If I pronounce it not correct, please correct me once again, okay? All right, open the microphone, please, and you can ask your question right now.
Okay, so my question is because in the beginning you explained about how technology could increase efficiency. I was just curious how if the exponential disruption is sustainable.
Can we increase the volume a bit, please?
Kun Maliwan,
Increase volume.
all right. Can you repeat your question once again, please?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, better. Yeah.
Okay. So in the beginning, you mentioned how technology help increase efficiency and how it's moving really fast, right? So I was just curious how we can make the exponential disruption sustainable, because in the beginning you said we might need less labor work and everything, so it could increase unemployment, for example.
Thank you for the questions. Very interesting, but now we have to wait for other signal a little bit. Just for some moments. Might not be long. To let everyone listen to your questions, all of them.
I think it is a very good question and very good point. What would happen to most of the people if technologies are replacing us, right? We can do more with less, and technologies are the infinite resource that we have, infinite amounts, right? That's a very good question, and we can achieve higher and higher productivity each year with less and less labor force entering the workforce, right? What would we do with the unemployment? Would the world be a better world going forward, right? First of all, I would like to share that in the next 10 years, or the future of the world, we would be able to have what we want, all of us, because of this thing called marginal cost of production is decreasing in every industry. We can do more with less, meaning that all the demand would be matched, right, with infinite resources. Robots are working 24 hours 7 days per week to produce materials, goods and services for us. Everything would be driven by software, infinite amounts of resources. So we are living, I think, in the next decades, we will be living in a better world where where all the demands would be fully fulfilled with unlimited supplies. We call it oversupply of things. And so we won't be living in a world full of scarcity, but we will be living in a world full of abundance. What would happen to unemployment? We would have, more time, more what we call holiday free from survival time. Because, for example, if we take the candles case example as an example, it used to take us on average 60 hours of human labor to produce light. Right? Once we're able to invent new technology like electricity, the cost, the input, we can do more with less. The average human labor time went down to 1 second. Right? We can save up an additional 5 hours and 59 minutes of human labor time. And those holiday free from survival time, either we decided to use those time for leisure, or we would use that time to invent even newer things for the world, because we are freeing ourselves from the thinking of how do I survive? In the previous, 100 years ago, that's all we think about. How do we survive? How do we have enough food? How do we have enough communication? How do we have enough computational power, right? But this is not how humans think now. Now we are not thinking about survival. We are thinking about how to make a world a better place. Right? It's beyond that, because we have a holiday free from survival time now to invent new technology. So that's why the world is moving in an exponential manner, because we are having more and more time each year, and we will utilize those time to invent new things for the world. Or we will create an entirely new industry altogether. Imagine in the previous 100 years ago, people used to work on the farmland, right? And once we're able to invent, machinery, we have what we call the agriculture revolution that took place. So it frees us, our time, human labor time, from agriculture productivity. Then once we have more free time, people would move to the new, or create a new industry entirely together called the manufacturing sector, or the secondary economy, right? We are able to migrate from a primary economy into a secondary economy with manufacturing. And once we have this manufacturing revolution, machines are replacing us, in factories. Then we have even more, free from holiday from survival time. And either we choose this time to invent new technology, or we use this time to invent an entirely new industry altogether. That is why we see the emergence of services industry happening after or what we call the tertiary economy happening after the manufacturing revolution. Right? We move from primary economy into a secondary economy, into a tertiary economy now. And with the next decade of new technologies coming up, right? The exponential technologies like AI, right? Metaverse, AR, VR technology. The machines will be able to replace us on the service economy also, the tertiary economy. That means, like Jack Ma was saying, we may be able to work 4 hours per week, but the world is still a better place because we still have more productivity with newer technology replacing our work, right? We still have more access to light today than in the last 100 years. And we don't have to work as hard, not 60 hours of labor time to produce light, because we invent electricity, right? The world is still able to achieve higher productivity or higher output, but we don't have to really, invest a lot of time as before, or as much as the previous generation does. So what would happen to unemployment? Overall, people would not be working as hard in the future. We would have more time, and robots and AI and machines would be replacing most of our work. And once we have more output, everyone and marginal cost of production is not increasing right, is decreasing every year in every industry, then all the demand would be fulfilled. So we're not really in a worse off position here. We are in a better off position. We don't have to invest a lot of human labor time, but we achieve more output that can match abundance demands everywhere around the world. And people, I would say, after the service industry, we as human, with enough time, with more time, we may invent an entirely new industry altogether after this, right? Which we are yet to see. Thank you.
Very interesting. I am dreaming about working 4 hours a week right now. All right. Coming to the second question from Kun Piyus Sarav. Please open your microphone, please.
Hi, good morning. My question would be that you mentioned about the exponential wealth gap and the market cap growth over the period of time. And I believe inflation is a big aspect that influences the unicorn mark that we currently have due to inflation as well as anticipatory investments that are made in the tech world. So is it not good for growth of the industries of the future, as well as should the definition of unicorn now be changed to something like a $1 billion of profit or revenue rather than just valuation?
Very, very good point. We're living in a hyperinflation world now. If you look at the U.S. economy, we are facing 7% inflation, which is the highest percent of highest inflation rate in the last 50 years of the U.S. in the history of the U.S. economy. And in the last 2 years, the U.S. really printed out a lot of money, right? If you look at the numbers, it took the U.S. 49 years to print out 50% of all the dollars in circulation, right? Since 1971, right? The post-Bretton Woods system, when we lifted from the gold pegging dollar to the gold standard, to the gold ratio. And then within the last 2 years, the US printed out an additional 50% of all the dollar in circulation. That means we're living in a super hyperinflation world, and everyone is able to access abundance of capital. Right? That's why we saw liquidity entered the stock market, equity market everywhere. Right? And that is really true because I was talking to, I don't know if you guys know Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z. They are the biggest VC firm in the world, right? By far. They just overtook Sequoia, right? And they said unicorn used to get them excited, But now in the US economy, they said they are able to mint a unicorn every day. In the world where we're living in, we are able to mint a unicorn every day now, and that's no longer excites them. And their newest benchmark is not a unicorn. Right? Their newest benchmark is $1 trillion company. Right? So they're moving up the bar. Right? Unicorn is a common commodity. That's, as I said earlier, that unicorn is becoming a common commodity. Mostly because, of course, the valuation is fully super inflated. And not just unicorn, by the way, if you look at seed round investment, Series A, Series B, everything was fully inflated. People are able to raise at a much higher valuation for their seed round, Series A, Series B, and so forth, and able to fund, get access to more and more capital. In the past, in the Silicon Valley, in the Valley area, say 20 years ago, if you're a startup founder, we used to get treated very badly, right? We have to wait at the lounge, and VC are late, and they're really holding the upper card here, right? Because we were begging for capital. But now it's the other way around. Andreessen Horowitz was saying that because now there are abundance of capital. Capital is becoming a commodity now. How do they differentiate themselves? Because the power play is different now. Now the entrepreneurs are choosing the VCs. Which one has the same values as them? Before they were like begging for, the entrepreneurs were begging for money from the VCs. So the dynamics are changing, right? Because of the inflation and the abundance of capital happening in the last 10, 20 years. After 2008, the first QE, right, quantitative easing. So I agree with you that unicorn is becoming more and more of a commodity, and the overall industry is fully inflated or overly hyped in terms of valuation, and that is what differentiates when there is a market correction, like today, for example, right? The US started to increase the interest rates, suck up the liquidity back because they are afraid of this hyperinflation. And you see that, once the tide goes down, you see the naked guys, right? Who are the real players and who are not the real players, right? Once underwater, you can't really tell the difference, but once the tide goes away, then you'll see the naked ones. So now we started to see those unicorns without really, earning powers getting affected a lot. I don't want to say this, but Grab used to be is a great example here. Grab used to be a national hero for our area, our parts of the world, ASEAN region. They are one of the very first to do an IPO in the US market, which is huge, a huge milestone. We are SPACs, by the way. And with the forecast and the reality, there's a huge gap of expectation gap happening right now. And once the tide goes away, you see, the earning potentials. And look at the share prices, right, of all these unicorns that are not really having the earning power. They're also getting affected. So I guess the best way to measure a unicorn, still we can use a market cap as a base, but how do we arrive at that market cap? That's a more important question. I don't think we should use a private valuation for a buyer to value a company and announce to the world that this is the newest unicorn because I am willing to pay for it. It could be a parent company injecting a capital into a children companies and claiming to be a unicorn, right? That's not very healthy. I guess the way we arrive at a unicorn valuation is through a proper, financial metrics, right? We have to be able to do the discounted cash flow, P ratio, D ratio, right? And those unprofitable unicorns, we can't really do a P ratio because there's no earnings, right? So I guess the best way is to go back to the traditional metrics, P ratio, D ratio, discounted cash flow. D ratio should not be over 0.5%. Otherwise, the company is super leveraged. It's not really a real unicorn, right? If they're borrowing money to leverage too much. Or P ratio should not be like 1,000% P ratio, 1,000 times P ratio, right? Unless you're growing at 1,000% each year, right? Otherwise, PEG would be more than 1, which is not healthy. And DCF, this is a classic formulas to measure the earning potential or the valuation of a company. So to answer your question, yes, everything is inflated now with the inflation, with the abundance of capital, and the way we value unicorn should be different, not based on a private valuation, but based on a proper financial metrics. I guess don't stick too much on the valuation or the unicorn name. It's more on creating a sustainable business, right? And creating a profitable company. That is more important now than the valuation. You can create $1 trillion company and burn money like crazy, and that's not going to be sustainable, right? Valuation is not as important if you are able to create this cash machine and you're able to generate profits every year and be able to increase the profit margin every year because of the business model that you're creating, that nobody can replicate what you're doing. That is way more important than a valuation. And I guess going back, my last word is to use a quote from Benjamin Graham, right, father of value investing. He said stock exchange in the short term is a voting machine, right? But in the long term, it will be a waiting machine, right? So what is trading now, today, every day, is just 10% of all the liquidity of the buyer and seller telling the world how much this company should be valued at. But that's not really the real price or valuation of the company in the long term, because it's just two guys making this transaction and establish the newest price for that stock, right? It's a voting machine in the short term. But what is more important is in the longer term, once we're able to derive the real value of the company, it will become a waiting machine, right? That is what is more important. I don't know if that answers your question. Thank you.
No, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think he's quite satisfied with the answer, with his mind. Okay, we quite have a very limited time. I think we can go for 2 questions more. Okay, right. For the next one, may I have Kun Chatchawat Sinha on the screen, please? And
Hello.
do not forget to open your microphone.
Yep.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. You had mentioned earlier that the time frame for companies to reach a market cap of $1 billion has drastically reduced. In India, there's a multinational hospitality chain which leases and franchises hotel called Oyo. And the problem they faced was that they scaled too fast and they grew too fast. And what happened was that the quality of the hotels was not up to their standards, and also the staff were not as trained as they should have been. And so people slowly started losing interest in this hotel franchise. In the tech space or at Bitkub, do you see any of these problems happening where you're growing too fast and it's actually counterproductive?
Oh, absolutely. All the time, I can tell you. It's a pain that every startup is facing. There is even a word for it. We call it blitzscaling, right? Blitzscaling is when a startup is, experiencing hyper growth, and we must be able to keep the culture, right? Keep be able to scale how we work, the process within the company. The machine breaks down if you grow an additional 1,000% every year consecutively for 4 years. It's like driving a car and you're stepping on a 200 kilometers per hour, driving very fast, and the engines are breaking, and we can't really stop. We have to keep going. That's how we manage hyper growth company. We have to sometimes close one eye and note it down that, okay, I'll fix this later, let's capture the growth first, right? Because we have to, opportunities coming our ways, we have to capture as much growth as possible. Let me fix the culture later, let me fix the bad hiring later, right? Running a 50 people company is very different from running a 500 people company, very different from running a 5,000 people company. The way we work, the way we communicate, the way we share information, we have to quickly adjust as we grow. And it is a growing pain for every company. And YOLO is another good example for that, right? They are blitzscaling and they are not able to keep up with that quality, service quality, crisis, fire coming every day at them. It's normal. And what is bad, what is worse about this, even worse about this, is that we cannot learn these things at school, right? And nobody has ever really experienced blitzscaling before. And it's even worse in our region, right? If you look at, I don't know, Brian Chesky, when he founded Airbnb and he's entering the blitzscaling phase, he can just get on a phone and call Mark Zuckerberg and say, hey, Mark, you've been through this before. How did you master your hiring process? Right? How did you change the way you share information within the company? He can just call Eric Schmidt, right, chairman of Google. Witnessing crazy growth here, right? Everything is breaking down. Can you help? Right? Anderson Horowitz. Right? But for Bitkub, we're the one pushing the bar here. I don't know who to call, right? We are growing at 1,000%, last year 2,000% per year. And if I get on a call with the best CEO in Thailand, they would say, oh, I'm growing 10%, I'm already happy because my size is my user base is huge. Optimizing 10% would already bring me a lot of revenue. I'm not stepping on an engine, a car that is going and the engine is breaking down the whole time. I'm not in your situation. I don't know how to advise. It's really hard. I can't get access to Brian Chesky or Amazon, Jeff Bezos or anyone in the valley. So this is what same as YOLO, I guess. But this is what is challenging about running a startup, which is very different from the initial phase of founding a company. When you found a company, most of the information are available online or books. How to find product market fit, how to fundraise, right? How to pitch. Those are like accessible information. But during the blitz scaling, we call it the scale up. During the startup phase, most people get access to the same information. But during the scale up phase, this is hard. Like nothing is in the book, right? Because nobody experienced this. Very few people in the world experience this. YOLO is one of them, right? But there's no books available. There's no advisors available. And this is the challenging part right now. It's not just in ASEAN, it's everywhere around the world, right? During the scale up phase. But once the minority that is able to go past this phase, then he or she would be somebody, right? Like Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, right? They have been through that, right? But not everyone would be able to pass this phase, which is way harder than the product market fit phase, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This is the third question, and I am just refreshing my screen right now, and they just sent to you more 6 questions. They are thrilled to have you here today. Now, so shall we start our 6 questions?
Sure.
Right. Next, can we have Kun Ji Ratchaya Jira Roti Tinan?
Yes, I have a question. As exponential growth curve continue to grow upward, will there be any chance that the line will be flat at some point, something like จุดอิ่มตัวค่ะ or it's going to continue increase like that unstoppable ค่ะ in case unicorn metaverse is become common thing in our world?
I can tell you based on the past data that the world has been moving in an exponential manner, in an exponential curve. And during the initial, phase of the exponential curve, the line was flat, right? If you were to plot an exponential curve, the inception of the curve is flat. It's not steep yet until we hit this inflection point. The internet century era where the curve is moving upwards in an exponential manner. That is why we are talking about disruption more and more and innovation less and less, right? Invention of new things, completely making the old things obsolete, right? New assumptions, new technologies. And that is why Google and Microsoft are really scared of two kids in the garage working on the latest trend, latest technology that are able to make them obsolete easily, right? Within a few years, more than their competitors with huge legacy. Will the line be flat? This is my personal opinion. I don't think the line will be flat because technology is developing on top of technology, right? And we are able to create, new capabilities, new human capabilities that we have never imagined we could do. And we are also having more time, more holiday-free from survival time once we are able to invent new technology to replace, our old actions. That means we have even more time to invent new things. And with the newest tools, building on top of the newest tools, meaning that, it will only create even more inventions and productivity and new technologies would be making the world moving even at a much faster rate. And that is why we see a clear exponential trend. Or imagine 10 years ago, like nobody would be connecting online right now as a communication tool, right? Right now, half of the 47 million people are online, line app, right? Half of the country within 10 years. 10 years ago, we did not use iPad, did not use, Instagram, Gojek, Grab, Airbnb, Bitcoin, blockchain. These inventions came about in 10 years, in the last decade. And we thought that 10 years was fast, right? I can tell you that in the next 10 years, nothing will compare, right, to the next 10 years of development. Right? We can outweigh the last 50 years of developments altogether, collective, combined, right? Would be slower than the next 10 years. We are able to connect on the metaverse now, able to hologram, able to interact with digital content via mixed reality. There are, by the way, with the arrival of quantum computing, that's going to change the entire game altogether, right? All the encryption to SHA 256 of all the internet protocols will no longer work, right? And people won't be processing data in bits, or 0 or 1. We'll be processing everything in qubits, 0 and 1 at the same time. The current computing power would be like candles, and quantum computing would be like the arrival of electric light, right? That would change everything in the next 10 years. So I think the world will only be moving faster and faster, and I don't think we'll see a flat line. And that is why there is this word called singularity. We will reach singularity at one point, right? If the world is moving this in an exponential way, right? Which is an interesting, very, very, very interesting theory. You can read up more on the word singularity. Right? We will witness this eventually. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then the next questions goes to Kun Sutira Kasinurak. May I have Kun Sutira on the screen, please? Welcome.
So as mentioned that the world will change exponentially in the next 5 years and 10 years or so, what do you think are the essential skills and ability that we as the next generation need to have or develop in order to be successful, or other than the unlearned and relearned skills?
Okay, thank you. A very good question. What do we need to have in order to succeed in the future? Of course, AQ is very important, right? Adaptive quotient, the ability to unlearn the older things and relearn new things. But apart from AQ, what else, right? As a CEO, I think the biggest important skill, and we cannot outsource this to, is the ability to spot transformational shift of the world, to see where the world is heading forward towards, right? We don't have to be the best CEOs, but we have to be the minority that is right about something that the majority are wrong, right? That's where we capture the most value. If everyone sees the same thing, then that's the average. We are going to achieve average results. So we have to be a first mover in something that nobody sees, or very minority of the people sees. The majority are wrong about, and we are the minority that is right, and be able to spot this trend, transformational shift early, and stick to it. I think that is the most important skill of a CEO, to have a vision, a visionary, right? To have a vision about something, and don't let the outer voice intervene with the inner voice, because the majority of the people would disagree with you, obviously, because they don't see this, right? And they're wrong. If you look at the past very successful entrepreneurs, they will all fall under the minority group of people that were right about something, whereas the majority were wrong, right? Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they may not be the best CEOs for everything, but these two built the whole operating system for the world, where people overlooked computers, laptops back then, Or Jeff Bezos, he left a high-paying job from Wall Street to sell paper books online. The internet, people thought he was crazy, but he was the minority that is right about the internet. And if we were to throw a dart, right, those that stick to the internet industry for long enough would most likely succeed, no matter how good or bad they are, so long as they capture the right, be at the right place, right? Most of the people that left the internet century after the dot-com bubble, right, they did not reap the benefit. But those that ride the volatility of the internet, most of them came out as, huge success. They don't have to be the best in the world, but they have to stick to the newest thing that nobody sees the opportunity but themselves long enough. Right? Or in the last 10 years, Brian Chesky, he told everyone that we would be sharing home with strangers. Majority of the people thought this is a crazy idea. Why would we be sharing home with strangers, right? But he was the minority that is right. Brian Chesky may not be the best CEOs in the world, but at least he saw something that nobody sees, right? And he's the minority that see it. Or Uber or Grab or Gojek, right? We would be sharing cars with strangers. Most of the people would think this is a crazy idea, but they are the minority entrepreneurs few that is right about something that the majority are wrong. Even for myself, right? I can tell you I'm not the best CEOs. I'm not the best, leaders, and I'm not the smartest guy out of the university either. Right? But I was the minority that is right about Bitcoin, whereas the majority are wrong. That gives me tremendous opportunities. So I think the first, apart from AQ, the next skills that I think we should have is the ability to connecting the dots and arriving at connecting the dot in your own ways and arriving at a place where you are the minority that is right, where you found this important truth, and the majority are wrong, and stick to that long enough. To believe in the vision, don't let the outer voice intervene with the inner voice. That is the second most important skills. And the third one is perseverance. I can tell you, perseverance wins over everything. Right? All of the great entrepreneurs I know or came across share the same character, share the same quality, perseverance. The ability to handle pain. You have to be able to handle pain. You have to have a higher pain threshold than everyone else's as an entrepreneur. If we cannot handle pain, don't be an entrepreneur. It's not like in the media, I can tell you. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of crisis happening. There will always be pain, and you have to have a very high pain threshold. Starting a company is hard, it's not fun, right? And you have to really believe in what you do and really have the passion and stay at it long enough. So perseverance is very, very important. And technology is making this worse. People have less patience now, right? If you want something, we would get it right away in the current world economy where, if we were hungry, we can just move our thumb and the food will be delivered within 30 minutes at your doorstep. If you want to go on a date, you can go on an app. You can see, a girl, say 100 girls per day. That's not something imaginable 100 years ago. It gives us, it makes human less patient, but this is backfiring in a bad way, because to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a very high pain threshold and a lot of, perseverance and the ability to delay gratification. That is very hard, right? As a human, when we reach out for an apple, we expect to get an apple right away, right? But this ability to delay gratification and the ability to sacrifice right? The ability to sacrifice, the ability to handle pain, perseverance. These are, the qualities that we need to have, but very few have it now, with all the technology destroying this part of human. But I can tell you that no matter which world we are living in, we need these qualities, and these 3-4 qualities will differentiate us to the rest of the people in the economy. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A very good answer as well. Well, then we go next to คุณปลายฟ้าเศรษฐภักดี Can we have คุณปลายฟ้า on the screen, please?
Hello. So as you are working on digital asset and currency, how do you see or what would likely to be the future trend in the next 10 years?
I can tell you with full confidence, right, that digital asset is definitely the future. Digital assets are here to stay, and everything would be powered by protocols or digital assets. Anything that can be digitized will be digitized or tokenized in the future. The arrival of Web3, that's the biggest trend. Web3 companies are emerging in the next 10 years. We are able to create new business models like X to earn, right? Learn to earn, exercise to earn, listen to earn, play to earn, that we weren't able to do in the past. We are able to co-own the protocol, co-develop an open source protocol, co-benefit from an open source protocol. We are able to see, software companies running by its own. We call it an autonomous, decentralized autonomous organization happening. There'll be a disintermediaries of middlemen, and people would be humanizing different blockchain protocols by, companies will be humanizing different blockchain protocols for a common man to use without realizing that he or she is using the blockchain, right? And all the assets would be a subset of digital assets in the future. We can tokenize equity, we can tokenize bonds, we can tokenize electricity units, we can tokenize carbon credit trading, we can tokenize gold, we can tokenize currency, and everything would be classified as digital assets. Digital asset would be all channels, right? And this is another mistake that we are currently making. We currently think that digital asset is just another asset class, but it's not, right? Digital asset will be all asset classes, right? And you'll see why. Right? Imagine like in the previous wave of technological disruption, the internet, right? When the internet first arrived, people thought that internet is just another communication channel. We have TV as one channel, we have radio as one channel, we have traditional telegram as one channel. Internet, it's just another communication channel. But we were wrong. Internet is all channels. Internet is all communication channels. We have digital TV now on the internet. We have digital radio. We have digital podcasts. Internet is all channels. Again, fast forward for today. We have equity as one asset class, gold as one asset class, oil commodities as one asset class. And people thought digital asset is just another asset class. But we are wrong. In the future, everything that can be digitized will be digitized. Everything that can be tokenized will be tokenized. Everything will be a subset of digital assets, right? And we are able to create, new business models, and we call it the Web3 companies, where people can co-own, co-benefit, co-use in an open system of a decentralized autonomous company in the future. There's so many trends happening in the next 10 years. With the arrival of metaverse also, we will have metaverse wallets, right? A cryptocurrency wallet that are able to transact in the digital economy world, and link this to the physical economy called the permission DeFi, where we have to wrap the coin and cash out at a verified accounts only, and bridging the old and the new world together, call it permission DeFi, where developers can develop new technologies on a permissioned DeFi platform, right? That's another new trend that we see. There's so many new things happening, and a year in the digital asset space is not like a year in other industry. A year in the digital asset space is maybe a 10 years equivalent of other traditional sectors development combined. We are moving very, very fast. Well, what I can tell you for sure today is that digital assets are here to stay, and they are definitely the future. And all the companies are secretly building out infrastructures for digital assets as we speak, right? But these are not publicly available data. Right? It's definitely coming for sure. And we don't see this opportunity very often for a country to be able to leapfrog with the latest, disruptive technologies, exponential technologies that would come in and change entirely everything, like the internet. Now we have the blockchain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we are having Mr. Justin Phaisit Wongkon for the next question. Please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Miss Justin, sorry.
So my question is, as the world is moving exponentially, people being more creative, thinking, designing, innovating, and inventing new technology to satisfy human need and adapt to the new world. However, people has their own unique way of perceiving things, which will lead them to different directions. As I watched Steve Jobs' speech a couple years back, he said that he has good engineer that thinking of new technology, but however, sometimes he has to say no because people working in his company is going in the opposite direction. Do you think, as him, that this can create a problem in the organization as they're moving in every direction with no solid way? Or do you perceive it as opportunity to open door to the organization for more ideas and creativity?
Sorry, I lost track of the question. Can we please increase the volume a bit?
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so
sorry, can you please repeat again?
Okay, I was saying that people coming up with a new way, new innovative thinking to create a new technology to adapt to the new world. However, everyone has their own ways of perceiving things, and that might lead them to a different direction. As a couple years back, Steve Jobs said that in his company, there has many great engineers coming up with great innovation, but they are moving in every single direction with no solid base. So sometimes he has to say no. That might discourage some of his employees. Do you think, as him, that having a new idea might lead to a problem, or do you perceive it as it's open the opportunity for the organization to have more creativity and thinking of new innovation to improve their business?
Okay, thank you. Great question. In the next 10 years, there will be 8 billion ideas happening because everyone would become a nano entrepreneur. Anyone can work anywhere, get access to the best cloud-based applications, world-class technology via a subscription-based model. Everyone would be able to invent new things at a lower cost. The cost of starting a company is trivial now. So there will be 8 billion ideas coming from 8 billion people on the planet in the next 10 years. But as a company, as Steve Jobs was saying, we have to focus, right? It is important to run the company based on the mission of the company and the vision of the company. Say for Microsoft, for example, their mission is to create technologies for, or digital infrastructure so that every companies can use their, platform to create, better work. That is their mission, right? To be a reliable platform, so for everyone to be able to use the tools that they invented to do a better work. And this has never changed since the Bill Gates era. Right? Computer is one of the best tools for us to work smarter with computers, with laptops, and now with Microsoft Teams and all the Microsoft softwares are able to increase our productivity, and they have never changed the mission of the company. They have many great engineers, they have many ideas, but they need to focus more on what they stand for, the purpose of their company, right? The reason why they still exist today. They have to be able to answer this question to the world. They may want to create a movie. Microsoft can create a movie, but that's not their mission. Their mission is not to provide happiness for millions. That is Walt Disney Jobs, right? The mission of Disney is to create happiness for millions, or create the latest Toy Story 3D movie. Microsoft can create that too, but that's not why they are here. The reason why they exist is to live up to their mission, right? And for Steve Jobs or for Mark Zuckerberg, it's the same. For Facebook, their mission is connecting people, right? And with the latest metaverse development, AR, VR technology, it's all about connecting people. Their mission has never changed. The vision may be bigger and bigger, right? Once they are able to master the platform, right? So social media platform. Once they're able to be a mobile first company, right? Now they are moving into glasses now, right? The vision can change, but the mission should never change, which is connecting the people. Like they can connect people via text in the past, via photos in the past, via videos in the past, via live stream in the past. But they are now moving to hologram, which is a better way to connect people. Their mission has never changed. Their engineers can invent thousands and thousands of ideas, but if it is not live up to the core of the mission of the company, then we would need to learn how to say no, because this is the point of creating a company where everyone comes together and believe in one mission and make sure that we are the best at this thing, right? The reason why this company exists. If the company that doesn't focus, then you can do that too, but it's not going to be a great company. Because if we were to study anything that has a great in front, great investors, great musicians, great companies, they all share this property, focus, right? Or I don't know if you guys learn finance, but lecturer would be telling us, guys, we have to diversify, right? In finance. But look at Warren Buffett. How many stocks does he hold? Did he diversify, or does he fully concentrate, focus on what he is good at, right? He said, investing is like a baseball game. Nobody is forcing you to swing every ball that comes your way, right? Nobody is holding a gun to your head and force you to swing every ball. You will only swing to the ball that you are certain that this is going to be a home run, right? He missed out on Microsoft. He missed out on, even though Bill Gates is his best friend, he still did not invest in Microsoft, right? He asked Bill Gates, so no matter how advanced your computer is, are you going to change the way people chew their gum, right? If people still chew the same way, a gum the same way, then I'm going to stick to what I'm good at, right? And he's fully focused. He missed out on Amazon stocks, Tesla stock, but he's still the greatest investor of history, in history, right? He focused. Or I don't know, Ronaldo, if you guys watch football, Messi, they are the greatest footballer in the history, right? They don't go swimming or play badminton. They fully focus, and they're the first to arrive at the training, be the last to leave at the training. They fully focus on what they do. That's why there's the great, they are the great footballers of our generation. The rest of the footballers are good, but not great, right? Because they may diversify. We are good investors, but we're not great investors like Warren Buffett, because we are not focused like him. Right? Same with companies, and many people would create good companies, but very few. If you talk about Steve Jobs, that's why he learned how to say no. That's why Warren Buffett learned how to say no, because they are great, great entrepreneurs, right? They're great investors. They need to focus on what they believe in and what they're good at. It's not wrong to have ideas. It's great to have ideas. It is great to have many ideas, but we can't do everything, right? We have to focus our attention. Management attention is very important. right? And that is why most companies fail also, because they are trying to do everything without by forgetting who they are. We cannot forget who we are, right? The mission and the vision should be long lasting, and the reason why the company exists, we have to be able to answer the reason why our company should have should be still be living on in this world. We have to be able to answer this as a founder, and once we are able to answer this question, we have to stick to it. And it's not one company's jobs to do everything, but we have to really believe in something and be the best at that thing. If you want to create a great company, but it's okay to create a good company and diversify to various things too. But I don't know if I'm going around and around here answering your question. I believe that we should foster ideas. We should have great ideas, and we should not punish failures, right? But once we have many ideas, we have to pick the ones that are aligned with the mission. That is what great companies do, right? And don't get me wrong, don't create an environment where nobody in the company is scared to invent new things. That is, a very bad signal to the company. Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they even allow 20% time for their engineers to do anything they want. They have this 20% rules to work on new ideas. They don't have to do day-to-day operations. And with that 20% time, their engineers is able to create products like Gmail, for example, for us to use today, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is that once we have new ideas, new invention, we have to be selective. And Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they have secretary, but they only put in, the items into the agendas themselves. So they are also focused, right? Even though they have secretary, but they arrange their own calendar, right? Warren Buffett says no too. He says no to a lot of things. And if you listen to his interview, he said, the ability to say no is more important than saying yes to everything. You have to focus. Right? Steve Jobs is the same. If you talk about great entrepreneurs, they are hyper-focused. But don't get confused with not allowing new ideas to happen. We should encourage new ideas, but be selective once we have many ideas happening to be able to create a great company. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you very much. So say no is not a bad thing anymore. Just focusing on what you are doing right now to be the best entrepreneur. Okay, very nice answer, nice question. Next, 3 last questions goes to Kun Zizo Cortez. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. It's wrong. Okay, go on.
So I was going to ask, because you said with innovations, we are going to have abundant amount of resources, product for the people. And I thought about the resources and how it would disturb the ecosystem.
Sorry, just one moment. Can we increase the volume, please? Maximum volume, if that's okay. Okay, can you please repeat your question again?
Can you hear me?
Can you speak louder, please?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Better.
Okay, so I was going to ask about like the innovation and technology. We will produce more stuff in the future to the point that you said it would be abundant. And I was thinking about what about the natural resources? Would it disturb the ecosystem? And if so, what would be the plan? Because nowadays it is one of the major problems in the world we're living in. It's the resources.
in the last 20 years during the Industrial Revolution, we depleted a lot of natural resources, right? Mostly real sectors, with the carbon emission, right? Destroying natural resources to oil, extracting oils. But if we talk about the next 10 years of developments, most of them will be driven by digital economy. And digital economy, we're not really depleting physical resources, right? Software is unlimited resources. Say, Microsoft, they can sell, I don't know, Excel, Microsoft Words without, we can replicate them without, we can do more with less. We don't need to inject even more resources to achieve more outcomes. And this is a good thing. But let's separate two topics aside, right? For the natural resource crisis, carbon emission crisis, in the US right now, they're taking this matter super seriously. They have a deadline, right? Within 2030, we have to have this carbon neutral and carbon negative even in the next, after 2030. And government even issue a mandate for all the companies to comply, right? And that is why this is another growth area, by the way, of all the newest startups doing the ESG, trying to invent new green tech, we call it green technology sector. And biggest companies are now acquiring startups that are doing green technology to make sure that they are able to comply with this mandate from the government around the world, Paris Agreement. I am hopeful because humans, we are very good at solving issues. We are very good at making scarcity no longer a thing of the past. We can create abundance. So, we had issues with water. Now we can extract water from the air. We have issues with scarcity for the, food starvation. We can, use a stem cell of a cow, put it in bioreactor, and we can grow food now. 50% of all the mother lost their lives for giving a birth to a child 100 years ago. Now barely anyone lost their lives for giving a birth to a child. People lost a lot of their lives from natural disasters in the past. Now we are losing a lot less lives, not because there are less number of natural disasters happening, but we have better technology to warn us ahead of time. We have longer, lifespan, 70, 80 years of age now, doubling the lifespan of a human 100 years ago. And longevity would exceed velocity in the next, 2030, 25. That means we have an additional year. With the technology, we're able to extend the human life at a much faster rate, 100 years old. So I'm hopeful that with the natural resource issues, we are able to invent new technology to solve this problem. And the reason why, I guess, Tesla stocks, grew 1,000% last year is because we're hitting a point where the electric car is, able to commercialize now. And in the next 2 or 3 years, we will be able to extract less and less oil. And battery price also, if you see, we are able to produce, unit economic from electricity units from the sun. So long as the sun is shining, we can produce free electricity. And electricity would replace, natural oil and all the fossil fuel energy. I'm hopeful that we can solve this natural resource issues. But on the second area, digital economy area, we're not really depleting, because we're not doing anything physical to the environment. We're just creating softwares that are replacing the way we work, the way we share information, the way we communicate, the way we transact. We are using technology to reduce the marginal cost of production for many real sectors even, which is a good thing because we can do more with less. So by using less input, we are doing less harm to the world. I think we're moving in the right direction, And I think people are really aware of this natural resource crisis. The clock is ticking, and the government puts a clear mandate on being carbon neutral by 2000, if I remember correctly, 2030. Yeah, in the year 2030. And all of the biggest companies are now super serious about this. And even the values of the customers are changing. The new generation would support a company with clear, mandate on preserving, natural resources too. They would not support a company that are here for profit only. Right? I think we're moving in the right direction. But great answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So it means that technology is just only the one tool that everyone can use to help each other for the natural resources, but we also need to help everyone together as well for the social to get this problem resolved. All right. Next question goes to Kun Kirsten Wetzel. Can we have Kun Kirsten, please? Thank you.
Yeah, if you had to choose an employer in our situation, like graduating soon, joining the labor market.
Sorry, the signal is gone. The signal is gone. Can you repeat the questions once again, please?
Okay. If you had to choose an employer in our situation, like graduate. The signal so bad. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So should I start again?
Yeah, please, if you can.
Okay, so one more time. If you had to choose an employer in our situation, like graduating soon and joining the labor market, what do you think would be the most important characteristics to look for in a company to make sure we work in a successful company and not in one of them who will vanish in the next year? So what is important for a company to be successful? Not only just concentrating on digitalization or unlearn and relearn again. Are there other things which a company should do now in the fast changing world?
I guess this question has different answers depending on the stage of the company, right? For the initial inception of the company, it is like jumping, doing a startup is like jumping off a cliff and trying to assemble a plane on the way down before it hits the ground. We have to do everything to make sure the company survives, to find the product market fit, to be a wartime CEO, not a peacetime CEO. You have to dive deep into product design, to find the right market for your product, to find the problem that you're solving for the world. But that is the initial phase of a company as a CEO. But once you're like Google or at the stage of Microsoft, then the founder's role is not product design. It's not trying to find the product market fit. It is, you have to be a peacetime CEO, not a wartime CEO, meaning that the whole mindset is different. We have to design the organization, not design the product. That is the key. We call it the organizational design. The only product of the founder is to design the company, not design the product. To bring, how do we design a company that an existing employee would bring a smarter person into the room, right? They would be, because we're not the one hiring anymore, right? Once we're at Microsoft stage or Apple stage, how do we design a company that an employee a B player would be able to accept A player into the company, an A player would hire an A+ player, hire better people? How do we create this mechanism? Because if we don't design the company by human nature, B player would never hire A player into the company because it would make B player look bad. And A player would become their manager and have higher pay and politics and everything, right? They would hire a C player, so B player would look better, get promotion and be the managers. right? And that's one part of the organizational design. How do we, at this stage, how do we allow innovation to happen? Because people stick to their previous, egos, previous success. Legacy system, legacy thinking. How do we make sure that, there's no hierarchies? The bottom guy with, how do we make sure that the best ideas can come from anywhere, not the top down? Right? We have to design organization as a founder to make sure that the company is successful. I guess the key sentence is this. In the initial phase of the company, be the time teller. You're managing the company by authority because time is limited. You have to assemble a plane on the way down after jumping off a cliff before it hits the ground. Time is very limited. Resources are very limited. So we have to have one certain type of employees where they listen well to orders, follow orders, right? And make sure we dive deep into the product design to make sure the company is successful. So we stop burning money, and usually a startup funding would last about 18 months. How do we make sure that within 18 months we become profitable, right? And extend the time and the runway. Be the time teller during the first phase. But once we find something that works, once we're able to finish, once we're able to win over the battle, how do we win the war, right? We have to make sure that we are no longer telling the time as a founder, but we have to build a clock. Be a clock builder, not a time teller, right? In the second phase, we have to be able to dive deep into organizational design, not product design. If a founder got hit by the bus, how do you make sure that the DNA you created within the company can innovate, can make the right decision, right? And make the decision fast enough? How do you make sure that the mission vision stays the same after the founder got hit by a bus or no longer here? How do we make sure that the success of the company outlasts success of the founder? That is very important, right? To build a clock. In the initial phase, right? Success of the company, maybe success of the founder is equals to the success of the company, right? Because the founder is the time teller, telling the time. Nobody else would know how to tell the time apart from the founder. Product design, product market fit, right? Fundraising, everything, doing everything for the survival of the company. But once we have, won the battle, then how do we win a war, right? We have to make it a long-lasting company. That means we have to stop telling the time, but build a clock, so the clock can tell the time, right? Which is a very different mindset, very different skill set. And I can, to be honest, this answer, it would take me another 3 hours on how to build a long-lasting company, which is, by the way, on YouTube. If you guys are free, I would urge you to listen to my one of my videos, how to build a long-lasting great company, the case of Bitkub. Based on 2 books, actually. The first book is called Good to Great by Jim Collins. Second book is called Build to Last, Jim Collins, 2 classic books. I would suggest you read this and you learn so much about, you will see, building a company in a different dimension, not the same as everyone else's. Very life-changing books. I would encourage you all to read. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So be a clock builder, not a time teller. So it's not about building a great product, but a great company, organization, right? Okay. They are keeping sending the questions that we have only 3 minutes left. So can we pick up just one interesting question for you?
Sure.
Would you like to pick up? Can be
pick.
anything? Okay. So I pick the earliest question then. From Kun Nopon Bunjan. Can we have Nopon, please?
Hi. So good afternoon. So my question is, if we refer to the quote from MIT Sloan and Capgemini that you have presented, which was, 90% of CEOs are aware of digital economy, but 15% are actually the ones who executing strategies to cope with it. Do you think external factors like domestic government regulation are actually the bigger factor that sort of preventing those CEOs from taking actions? Or is it the internal factors, for example, like one's lack of adaptive quotient?
Thank you. What are the factors preventing companies from taking action? I would say both, internal and external factors, right? Regulations should not front run technology. That is clear. Because regulations always catches up with technology, always running behind. We should not front run regulation with regulation should not front run technology. But that's usually the case for many countries because of the legacy law, legacy system. Very hard to change one piece of regulation. It take a lot of effort and lobbying and education. And the technology is moving much faster. That is one factor. That is true, preventing many companies to do things. Second factor is internal, as you said. The AQ. You see Dustin Sandley, right? The guy riding a bike. Very hard. Once you mastered how to ride a bike, you can't ride another bike in a different way. It's really hard to. The unlearned part is hard, especially companies with huge past huge success. That is backfiring massively because they have this ego and the traditional way of work that used to get them there, and they're sticking to the old ways, and they without realizing that this is a different world now, a different assumption, different environment. That is why AQ is very important, the ability to unlearn and relearn. And the third factor is also internal. It's human capital, right? They have the money in the world, but without the right human capital, we can't really change things. What is a company? A company is when an average group of people come together and work on something. Company is people, right? Company is the average of all the people coming to work together. A great company would be consisting of great people. So how do we transform a company? We start with people, and this is what is unique about that book. I recommend it, Built to Last and Good to Great. Most of the leaders would start with strategies and business models when they wanted to change a company, without by forgetting that companies is people. In order to execute on new strategies and new business models, how would you do that without the right people? Right? Without the right people, without the right values, without the right culture. So this book tries to say that we start with people, not start with what, not start with how, but start with who, right? Which is very important. If I only have one limited time and I can only focus on one part of the company, as a CEO, I would focus on HR, on people. The right people, if we have the right people, the rest is a bliss, right? I would not start with strategy. I would not start with business. I would not start with finance. I would start with people. So, lack of human capital is another factor that is preventing companies from changing, growing, and the leaders too, right? How do we create an environment where innovation can foster? Even if we have the right people, but we create a wrong environment for them to grow, then it doesn't work, right? So as a leader, we have to create rooms for innovation to foster. We cannot punish, failures. We have to encourage experiments. Like Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they allow 20% time for people to work on newest things. So leaders are also, also plays an important part. And human capital, the ability to take on the newest technology, like quantum, blockchain. How many people know how to write blockchain in Thailand? So that's an obstacle preventing the companies from growing. And the legacy system is not always a good thing, right? Imagine if we want to produce an electric light. if we were to ask a candle company to produce an electric light, they would try their best to create a bigger candles, long-lasting candles. Right? We can never arrive at electric light with a candle company because they have this legacy thinking, legacy system. They would develop on top of candles, and we cannot achieve electric light by developing on top of candles. So most companies have this legacy thing that is preventing them from adapting. So the best way is to spin off completely into a new DNA with the same mission vision, right? Same mission but different vision, but don't get the old DNA or the old legacy thinking into the new company, and that would give you more chance of creating an electric light, right? Than forcing people in the candle company to produce one. Right? So there are many different factors, both internal and external. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it can be both of external and internal issue, but the most important thing that Kun Top very concerned is about the company and the people and the way of thinking to avoid legacy process in the company, so you can invent something new for the future as well. So we have a lot of questions right now, but sorry we cannot finish everything, but I hope that all of you got very insightful from Kun Top answers already. Before we leave this session, we have other representatives from the participants today in the event. Would love to say thank you to Kun Top ค่ะ Please คุณนันทนาค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะจันทร์สวัสดีค่ะ Okay, thank you once again, okay, for being the guest speaker for this year ค่ะ So on behalf of Mahidol University International College, okay, we would like to thank you for your time. Okay, so today we have 3 classes, okay, joining your session. So we have International Logistics led by Ajahn Klaus. Ajahn Ploy, and we have Internationalization class, okay, led by Ajahn Klaus. And also global trade, okay, joining your session. And thank you for very insightful and very fruitful session. Okay, and also I would like to say one thing, okay, behind the scene, that students got very excited, okay, to have the opportunity to come and talk to you, and they're very eager to ask you a lot of questions. So if you have more time, then they would ask you more questions, and I fully understand how value your time is, okay, but I guarantee that your time is not wasted, okay, you have planned some good seed into their head. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
ขอบคุณมากค่ะ Thank you so much ค่ะอาจารย์นันทนา So that is some thought from the very deep hearts from other representative of the university. Once again, Kun Top, I have to say thank you so much for spend your valuable time today. We know that you have a lot of things to do today as well, and we hope that next time on other event we can invite you again and we can receive your honor again to be here with us. ขอบคุณมากนะคะขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณครับ
Don't go anywhere else, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to check your attendance.